Okay, so let's get started. We're going to be taking a look in this training module at how to dial in our spark timing for part throttle cruise situations. Now, if you haven't done extensive modifications to your Gen 3, so let's say you have typical bolt-on mods, you're probably going to be able to skip this step because the maximum brake torque tables and the borderline tables should be worked out for normal part throttle operations so that you're getting the best throttle response, the best torque output, essentially reaching maximum brake torque and getting the best efficiency out of the engine, so your fuel economy is going to be as good as it's going to get. Now, Ford does an excellent job with that, but if we start to really modify things, and let's say we've deleted the intake manifold runner control, we're probably going to have to go in and do some custom adjustments to the maximum brake torque and borderline tables so that we can make sure that we're running at maximum brake torque in light throttle, part throttle situations. So again, we have the best throttle response, best torque output, best fuel economy, and just overall the best mechanical efficiency out of our engine. Now, the process for this is relatively straightforward, but I'm going to break this down of how we're going to go about this. We need to lock into certain map points that we're going to be calling out for normal driving situations, and we're going to go through and use the knock control system to guide us in how much we can update our maximum brake torque table values by from 1500 RPM and above. We don't want to start to adjust maximum brake torque much lower than about 1500. When we do adjust maximum brake torque timing table, it is going to influence and affect our torque calculations with our engine control module. So if we start to get into too low of an RPM, that can create some problems for us for torque control and torque reporting. Once we get into higher RPM, 1500 RPM and above, where we spend the majority of time of our cruising, we'll find that that should be completely sufficient to edit and calibrate without really throwing out our torque control system, because the torque control for idle control can get definitely all out of whack if you start editing values too low. So I'm going to show you how to do this. There are some specific things we want to talk about here, so we're aware of what we're doing, why we're modifying things. We're going to be using the histogram table overlay feature in our VCM scanner here to help us accomplish this. Let's jump in and take a look at everything so we can get acquainted with where we're at right now. So going in here to the engine tab, moving over here from general, and let's just jump into airflow first and talk about this under variable camshaft. Now I have went in here because I've deleted the intake manifold runner control on my intake manifold. I've set up the cam pairing so it's optimized for part throttle and for full throttle. We've already talked about the VCT custom scheduling. So we're only using 6 total map points. We can see that here, 0 to 6. And realistically, when we're driving, we're really only using map points 2 through 5. 6 is an outlier, more for full throttle, and then 0 is for emissions reduction, and 1 is for optimal stability. So realistically, we're dealing with map points 2 to 5 that we have to calibrate. That's greatly shrunk down how many tables I have to work with for torque calibration, for speed density calibration, and now for spark timing calibration. So what we're going to do is focus on locking our tables in from map points 2 to 5, and we can use our Excel spreadsheet to show and illustrate what those specific map points are going to be doing. We have our actual map point scheduling here, so the intake and exhaust map point scheduling. We have our lookup tables, we have our distance tables, everything's populated, and then we've converted it into what this is going to look like for both intake and exhaust, so we can see what this looks like before we even run our engine. We went through all this extensively. This should all make sense. So what we're going to do right now is focus on calibrating those mapped points that we are going to be driving on primarily above 1500. So it's going to be map point 2 to 5. We can see that called out here either in the eco table, best fuel economy, or best drivability table, 4 through 5. So we're going to be doing locking our cam in at 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we only have 4 tables to really worry about here in our part throttle. So let's take a step back in here to our calibration file. So this is going to mean that if we move in here to our spark area under advanced, we have our maximum brake torque table and our borderline table. Now the way this works with the way the Ford stock programming logic is going to be, we ride on base NBT as our spark source. So we're essentially using the maximum brake torque table to call out the spark timing when we're below about 0.4 air load and lower. That can vary between different operating systems and some different conditions, but usually 30 to 40% load, which is 0.3 to 0.4 air load. We ride on maximum brake torque for our light throttle cruise. This makes sure that the spark timing is more consistent and that we are riding at that maximum brake torque. We should be able to achieve maximum brake torque at lighter load, lighter throttle inputs. And it just ensures that we have the best engine efficiency. And when the spark timing is not going to be varying around and moving around. So if we allowed, for example here, the way the programming is going to be, if we allowed the spark timing to follow the borderline, we know as soon as it's on borderline, the knock control system's active. It starts to add whatever the advance rate's going to be specified here. So we have our max advance. So that's our advance. That's our retard. It's able to move between those two. So it can start at the borderline value if that's lower than maximum brake torque, and it can add up to the maximum brake torque value as the ceiling, or it can pull down below that. So going back in here, Ford blocks that out so the spark timing is more consistent at lighter loads that we do our typical cruising at. What we're going to do here is actually set this up a little bit differently. We want to figure out, now that I've changed the VCT scheduling, and now that our map points, essentially 2 through 5 here, are thrown out of whack, so 2, 3, 4, and 5, we need to recalibrate maximum brake torque so that when we're riding on the maximum brake torque timing table values, whatever map point we're at, we are going to actually be at maximum brake torque. So what we'll do here is we're going to be raising up our maximum brake torque values, probably adding 6 to 10 degrees of timing to our maximum brake torque from about 0.5 to 0.4 air load and below in the table. Thanks for checking out our teaser clip. If you want to see the rest of this video and more than 500 hours of current EFI training we have to offer, make sure you click right here. If you want to go and check out more teaser clips from this training course, click here. And you don't want to miss any of the videos we're going to be releasing on this channel, so make sure you subscribe and click here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.